The transport shuddered as it broke through the atmosphere, the groan of its hull a constant companion to the man in the holding cell. He watched through the small, reinforced viewport as the alien world resolved itself swaths of deep violet vegetation under a lavender sky, dotted with spiraling silver structures that seemed to grow from the ground. It was beautiful. It was his prison. He had no name here. To the Galactic Accord, he was human specimen 782, a volunteer from a newly integrated, physically resilient species, offered for a decade of service in exchange for technological and diplomatic considerations for Earth. His particular resilience had been matched via complex algorithms he did not understand. To an officer of the Cathari, a species known for their slender frames, keen intellects, and a strict, honor-bound culture, the term they used was symbiotic service pairing. He called it bondage. The docking procedure was smooth and silent. The door to his cell hissed open, revealing a Cathari official in gray administrative robes. "Your pairing officer awaits. Follow." They led him through corridors of softly glowing metal, eventually to a debarkation bay. Standing at attention near a sleek, gunmetal gray scout ship was his match. She was tall for a Cathari, her stature almost matching his own, though she was far more slender. Her hide was the color of polished oak, and a mane of fine, dark tendrils fell down her back, gathered in a complex, tidy knot. She wore a form-fitting black uniform, accented with crimson at the cuffs and collar, denoting her rank as a senior investigator. Her eyes, large and amber, regarded him with a dispassionate, analytical coolness. She did not seem hostile. She did not seem friendly. She seemed like a problem waiting to be solved. "I am your assigned officer," she said, her voice a low, melodic chime translated by the implant in his jaw. "You will refer to me as officer. You will follow directives without hesitation. Your physical capabilities supplement my investigative role. This is the function of the pairing." He simply nodded. Words felt unnecessary and potentially dangerous. Their first missions were mundane. Patrols of the outer sectors, routine scans of merchant vessels, the bureaucratic paperwork of a minor frontier command. He was a silent shadow, using his greater strength to move cargo during inspections, his durable frame to withstand environmental hazards on derelict stations. She was cool, precise, and utterly professional. She never thanked him. She never chastised him. She merely observed and utilized. He began to notice things. The way other Cathari officers, even those of higher nominal rank, would give her a wider berth in the corridors. The subtle shift in their tone, a veneer of respect overlaying something deeper wariness. Her reports were always impeccably detailed, her conclusions unassailable, yet they often led to quiet, sudden transfers or the dissolution of entire smuggling rings with shocking efficiency. There was no bluster, no drama. Only results. The change began on a survey mission to a moon called Lyra 7. A research outpost had gone silent. Their scout ship set down in the midst of a howling chemical storm, the winds screaming against the hull. The outpost was a mess of collapsed domes and flickering power relays. The atmospheric processors have failed. "The ambient chemicals are corrosive and neurotoxic," she stated, reading her scanner. "Your species' epithelial resilience and toxin filtration are 40% higher than Cathari baseline. You will secure the primary data core from the central lab. I will attempt to restore auxiliary power." It was not a request. He nodded, pulling on an enhanced environmental suit over his own clothes. As he cycled the airlock, he saw her at the ship's console, her long fingers dancing across the controls, her expression one of absolute focus. The wind outside was a physical hammer. He fought his way to the central lab, the acid rain sizzling on his faceplate. He found the core, and along with it, the researchers. They had not died from the atmosphere. Their bodies showed precise, brutal kinetic damage. This was not an accident. He reported his findings over the comms. Her response was immediate and calm. Retrieved. Return now. Do not linger. Back on the ship, covered in residue, he presented the core. She took it, her eyes scanning the visual feed from his suit recorder. She watched the scene of the bodies without a flicker of emotion. The Kreth Syndicate, she said softly. Their signature. They were searching for something here. Should we not call for backup? An investigative team? Her amber eyes met his for the first time with something akin to genuine attention. That would be standard procedure. Standard procedure would allow them time to cover their tracks, to scatter. Our pairing was approved for high-risk, autonomous operations. We will pursue. It was then he realized the pairing's true purpose. He was not just a strong back. He was a deniable, resilient asset for an officer whose purview was far beyond routine patrols. They moved. Her ship was not a standard scout. At her command, its engines shifted from a hum to a deep, throaty roar, and it shot through the storm into the void. Her navigation was not by standard charts, but by a web of inferred routes and criminal probability algorithms. She spoke to informants in a language he did not recognize, her voice never rising, but the responses were always swift and terrified. They tracked the Syndicate vessel to a gritty asteroid belt. They will be armed. Heavily, he said, checking the ship's rudimentary weapon locker. Their pattern is to board and overwhelm with numbers. They will attempt to do so here. You will allow them to board. He stared at her. Allow them? You are the bait in the trap. A human, alone on a Cathari vessel, will be an irresistible and confusing prize. They will focus on you. I will handle the rest. Protest died in his throat. The logic was cold, tactical, and terrifying. He stood in the main corridor as the Syndicate ship, a scarred predator of welded plating, clamped onto their hull. The boarding tube sealed, and the doors blew in with a concussive charge. 6 aliens, hulking and armored in scavenged gear, poured in. They saw him, raised their weapons, and snarled in triumph. They did not see her dot. She moved from the shadowed vent above the door like a silent blade. She did not fight. She conducted a symphony of cessation. Her movements were too fast to follow. A fluid dance where every touch was a disarm, every strike a precise impact on a nerve cluster or a weak point in armor. She used their momentum, their weight, their aggression against them. A weapon discharged, and she pivoted, the energy bolt searing past her to strike the one who fired it. In less than 20 seconds, 6 Syndicate boarders were on the deck, unconscious or groaning, their weapons scattered. She stood amidst them, not a hair out of place, breathing slightly deepened. She looked at him. Secure them. From that moment, the nature of their pairing transformed. He was no longer just a tool. He was the anvil to her hammer. He would draw fire, hold positions, break through barriers. She would flow into the spaces he created, a whirlwind of silent surgical violence. He saw her dismantle security grids with a thought, pilot through asteroid fields at suicidal speeds, and stare down warlords without a hint of fear. The rumors on the station now made sense. The wariness was not for a strict officer. It was for a force of nature contained within a uniform. The final confrontation was in the Syndicate's own den, a space station hidden in a nebula's heart. The warlord, a massive brute from a high-gravity world, laughed when they entered his throne room alone. The Caithari ghost and her pet monkey. He boomed. I have heard tales, but here you are outnumbered 20-1. His officer did not speak. She simply glanced at her human partner and gave a single, almost imperceptible nod. He did not charge the warlord. He turned and slammed his fist into the main power conduit for the room's defensive turrets. Electricity arced, plunging the chamber into emergency crimson light in disabling the automated weapons. Chaos erupted. What followed was not a battle. It was a demonstration. As the Syndicate forces rushed them, the human became the unbreakable wall, using his strength to control the flow, to create choke points, to absorb blows that would shatter a Cathari. And she was everywhere else. In the strobe-like flashes of handheld weapons, she was a phantom, a streak of black and crimson. She was beside him, then across the room, then above, her every movement ending with a Syndicate soldier falling. She was not invincible. A graze from an energy blade seared her arm. A glancing blow from a maul drove her to a knee, but she was unstoppable. She fought with a chilling, intelligent fury, adapting to every weapon, every tactic, turning the room itself into her ally. The warlord, enraged, charged the human, who stood his ground. The impact was thunderous, a contest of raw power. As they struggled, the officer finished the last of the guards. She did not run to help. She walked. The warlord, sensing her approach, threw the human aside and turned to face her. Raising a massive rotary cannon dot, she did not slow. In 3 strides, she closed the distance. A faint low, a pivot that seemed to defy physics, and she was inside his guard. One hand struck his weapon arm at the elbow. There was a sickening crack. The other hand, fingers rigid and precise, struck his throat. The warlord gargled, his eyes wide with shock and pain, and collapsed. Silence fell, broken only by the hum of damaged systems and the moans of the defeated. The human got to his feet, his body aching. She stood over the fallen warlord, her chest rising and falling steadily. The crimson on her uniform was no longer just unknown.